season 91, it was a case of by how far for the amazing GTR. Nissan's twin-turbo four-wheel drive rocket ship swamped the opposition to win both the Shell Touring Car title and the Tooheys 1000 at Bathurst. In a bid to even up the equation this year, Cam's handicappers have added 40 kilos to the Nissan and restricted power output to 450 horses by way of a turbo pop-off valve. By comparison, Holden is straight from Jenny Craig, 100 kilos lighter than the Tokyo Express, but likely to feel the pinch due to its 7,500 RPM rev limiter. BMW's durable M3 will do it tough after being shackled with a 60-kilo weight penalty. By Bavarian standards, the Bimmer may be considered obese, though it is rev-free, so put in the earplugs. Ford's European Sierra is unlikely to be affected by tipping the scales at 1,150 kilos or its 7,500 RPM limiter, but it is early days yet. So have the handicappers got it right first up in a bid to produce closer and more entertaining racing in season 92? We'll soon know as 7 Sport welcomes you to Sydney's Amaru Park Raceway for round 1 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Proudly brought to you by Shell. Good afternoon, Australia. I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to the commencement of another year of fabulous motorsport here with 7 Sport. Today we're at Amaru Park Raceway for round 1 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, and there's been plenty of action on the track as I welcome my co-anchor for season 92, former national champion Bathurst winner Alan Moffat. Alan, we've spoken about the cars, but also the format has caused a few problems today for those who thought they'd be on pole.
Yes, well, with the new qualifying dash on Sunday morning, which we've never had before, normally Saturday afternoon takes pole position. But last night, John Bowe went home with his Shell Sierra on pole, and after the 3-lap race today, he landed up 5th, so he's not too happy. By converse, Peter Brock was 5th on the grid last night, and he came 2nd in the race this morning, just behind Jim Richards, and lands up on the first row.
Here's the last lap of what we saw this morning, the Dash for Cash, the Peter Jackson event. And as you can see, Jimmy Richards was leading. Peter Brock was right on his tail. They come to the exit of Honda Corner, and a big move here down the outside from Peter Brock as he comes storming down to put the pressure well and truly on Jimmy Richards. Just couldn't pull it. And Jimmy Richards, of course, went on to win the 3-lap trophy dash this morning here at Amaru Park Raceway. And that, of course, has changed the grid positions here today.
The 3-lap race is really a little bit of a lottery because we draw for our positions, as you know. So if you're lucky enough to get on the front row, it gives you a pretty good start on the other guys.
You started out of 2 there, 1 for the first heat. It must be a big advantage.
Yes, it is, but it's probably really the second heat that counts the most because that's when our tyres will be really looking not too good.
Well done, Jimmy Richards. He has pole position in the Winfield Nissan. Out of 2 is 0.5 Peter Brock, the big achiever in that field. From 3, it's car number 2, Mark Scaife in the second of the Nissans. From 4, 35, Wayne Park in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 5, car number 18, John Bowe, the first of the Shell Sierras. From 6, number 3, Trevor Ashby, the Commodore. From 7, car number 4, Mark Gibbs, the GIO Nissan GTR. From 8, it's car number 30, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. 9, a long way back, 25, Tony Longhurst, the B&H BMW. And rounding out the top 10, car number 17, Dickie Johnson. Racing. Brocky off the line, but look at the four-wheel drive advantage as he tries to cross to the inside. A block out the challenge. Wayne Park gets away beautifully on the outside as they come roaring up to the top of Itchapave. The 2 Nissans side by side over the top and down into the Dunlop loop, and it is Peter Brock who will lead it from Wayne Park. Oh, Glenn Seaton very much sideway on the exit. There's Dick Johnson muscled in there. The GIO Nissan well back in the pack as Brocky stretches them coming down the back straight for the first time. Looks like Glenn Seaton in car number 30, the second of the Peter Jackson cars, getting by Wayne Park as he now picks up 2nd. Park drops back to 3rd. We take the car number 30 off the start to show you how the 2 Nissans lag down. Glenn Seaton able to get up on the outside. You see the 2 Nissans across to the right as he catches one, moves up here on the inside of Jimmy Richards.
Here's Dick Johnson having a go at Trevor Ashby. Not gonna like this one, doing everything. Oh, Dick very gentlemanly there, I must say. Ashby a real handful around here, but there he's through, and he was definitely being held up by that Commodore.
That was a good move, and it was caught by our race cam. Look at this, a BMW.
Those were the BMWs that weren't gonna go very well, Mike, but they seem to be up there fairly quickly already.
Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra, as he hones in behind the tail of the 0.5 Peter Brock Mobile Commodore. They come down the hill And Seaton has been clawing away at Peter Brock's lead lap after lap as we take our race cam. Sitting up on top of car number 30 on the approach now to the late corner. Brock on the brakes.
Well, there's no doubt that we've got a good set of tires on both of these cars. Bridgestone covering both Peter Brock and Glenn Seaton. They've obviously got a batch that's working well here today.
Now the whole idea is to try and just keep this tight on the exit to this turn. Keep it very tight because here comes Jim down the inside. Side by side, and Richards. In the Winfield Nissan, Johnson comes down, but he's got to get back behind him because he's going to have Mark Scaife up the inside as well.
Once Mark Scaife in the number 2 car, that's Richards hammering around the back of Johnson there.
Yes, I must apologise, I got the cars wrong there. It was Mark.
Well, a lot of red cars hard to follow there, Michael.
No, I got it wrong all
we'll
day,
forgive you
actually.
that time, but
Glenn Seaton is going after Peter Brock in the biggest possible way as they come down the back part of the course. The last lap board is out.
2 big braking areas here. This one at the end, at the bottom of this hill, and then again at the lake corner. The Sierra a little bit lighter, might be able to take advantage, but looking
a bit too far back.
A little bit too far.
Yeah. They're coming up to the short straight. There's no room. A few lap cars. Checkered flag at the ready.
Great
New
drive.
regulations, and Peter Brock takes heat number 1 of round 1 of the Shell Touring Car Nationals at Amaroo Park. Second place will go to the Peter Jackson teamster, Glenn Seaton, and Mark Scaife will finish 3rd. Jim Richards 4th, Dick Johnson 5th, and 6th place will go to John Bow in car number 18. So Peter Brock and Alan, it has been declared a wet race, so everyone is on wet weather rubber.
That's fresh ones, of course.
So 10 seconds away from the start. The weather has cleared. You could have a dry line here and some pit stops. The tension, the action ready to come from Amaroo Park. Heat number 2. And off the line goes the Nissan, out and gone the pair of them. There goes the 3rd Nissan up on the inside. No advantage with 4-wheel drive, they say. Don't you believe it? And the rest of them are just straggling up the hill now, trying to get traction off the line. Over the top and down into the loop.
Well, that was a reversal of the first heat where Brock got an immaculate start. I think he definitely fumbled the clutch on that one. Didn't want to get too much wheel spin. Took it a little bit easy, but the 4-wheel drive just leapt off the 2nd and 3rd row of the grids.
Couldn't get better indication of the performance than that. Mark Gibbs starting from 8th position on the grid. He was 3rd through the first corner. These things have got some traction, all right. And the wet conditions, we haven't seen the GTRs run in the wet yet. This is the first time, and they are quick.
I tell you what, 60 kilos of difference to the BMWs. Have a look at them running down. They're just powering down the outside. I would say they've probably gone for the softest wet weather tyre. And there's a bump going on with John Bauer too. That's Alan Jones. They've had a battle of words going for a while.
That's Tony Longhurst.
No, it's Jones behind.
But there's Jones coming up beside him now, so there could be a bit of a... Here we go. Jones will look down the inside.
Well, the rain is a great equalizer, Michael. It brings everybody into gear. The drivers have still got to be extremely brave, and they've got to be extremely delicate and very careful with what they're doing.
Jones down the inside.
Obviously, they're feeling no pain whatsoever. Either Tony Longhurst got a little wide there. Ooh, he was lucky. Up on the nature strip there, or if you want to call it a nature strip. Definitely slippery when you get those tires on those curves.
So the BMW is a new lease of life, as Alan said. Rain is the great equaliser. These little bimmers with their 60 kilos, not showing any sort of restriction in the wet weather conditions. Brocky still hanging in 4th position behind the 3 GTRs. Mark Gibbs there in 3rd.
Okay, we'll have a look at them across the line. It's Mark Scaife, the leader, from Jimmy Richards. Mark Gibbs runs 3rd on the road. As we look at the replay off the starting line with Glenn Seaton, just look at the acceleration of those 3 GTRs. There's Brock. Johnny Bow moves up quickly.
Well, they talk about slingshots, Mike, and boy, if that wasn't one, you'll never see one. Just tremendous. And if there was ever a vote for 4-wheel drive on the road, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you're looking at. This is where the technical excellence comes into their own, and that's why you would have it if every manufacturer was prepared to spend the money doing it. It'd be much more comfortable for Brocky at the moment. He's got a heavier car, 1,300 kilos against the 1,040 kilos, but here's the first go, a little stab. No, Tony not going to do it. He did do it.
Brock had a ton of understeer coming out of there.
See, just that millisecond that he hesitated and the BMW was through. So much for power to weight ratios that everybody's been bandying around all weekend. The violins have been playing here like a 45-piece Philharmonic orchestra. But we're now seeing touring car racing 1992. Forget the four-wheel drive cars. It's a lay-down misère for them. But the way in which the two BMWs leapt forward is an indication. Normally aspirated engine, a little easier to control. And there, the third BMW passing a Sierra like he was standing still.
That was Paul Morris, who's also running for the Frank Gardner, Tony Longhurst team. And you saw what he did. I'll tell you what, all the, I guess, the whinging about the extra 60 kilos, put him on a wet track. I'll tell you what, isn't that even up the equation? Yes.
Bondi, of course, living in Sydney, Mike, would know the way he would like to have his car set up, and I think is harassing the two cars in front of him quite efficiently, just looking for a slight opportunity to get by under brakes. It might be a touch here. Close.
I've got the feeling Morris is going to gain handsomely out of this. These three are having a huge scrap. Seaton doesn't want to give way under brakes. He's on the brakes early. Naturally, Bond's car is loose in the tail end.
Paul Morris gets squeezed out.
Bondi's, something's back. He's had it. Engine's gone. Missed a gear change or something. He's out of the equation there now.
Aggressive stuff from Paul Morris. All the GTR boys have been complaining this year with the reduction in horsepower, how it's affected the handling of the car. It seems to be understeering quite heavily now.
There he goes.
Tony says thanks very much.
And there's not much Mark can do except try and out-accelerate him, and Tony's got to run with him on the inside unless Mark gets across there, which he can't do. Now, you'll find that Longhurst will get through. He'll shorten up the turn to make sure he can't get back on the inside.
Now, these two guys are only 4 seconds behind the leading Freddie Gibson cars, Scaife and Richards. So the field is gradually bunching up, and I guess if the track does start to dry out, Alan, the BMW on wet weather tyres would have the advantage, would it?
Well, being the lightest car, it should deteriorate the least. Now's the time for the fellows to start drifting around on the wet part of the track, keeping the tires cool and making sure that they don't chunk out. But we're not at desperate stage yet.
Here's Paul Morris making a move down on the outside of Glenn Seaton. Seaton came up to fourth. Morris making a big lunge down the outside. Seaton will probably outbrake him going into this corner and keep him to the outside. Oh, he came straight across, so that was for Glenn.
Again, the turbo lag coming in. That's the worst corner on the track for a Sierra. Down to the very lowest gear, and turbo down to very few RPM.
And that advantage has been pushed home now by Mark Gibbs in the third GTR, who's been able to get around the outside again of Tony Longhurst.
We've just had word from the pits that there he is, car 25. Longhurst has been pinged for noise infringements as well.
Well, we've got an abnormal situation here. When I say abnormal, the authorities don't, where we live in an echo chamber here, and the noise attacks these people. They pass one day, then they're noisy the next. It's very, very hard.
The cloud covers come over, and because our car revs so hard, the induction noise has obviously brought the decibels up. They put the flag out, so I dropped 1,000 revs and started to use the higher gears, but they continued to hold the flag out. So I think that's pretty bad. Coming up to the last corner now, as they swing on the way to the checkered flag, and it's about to come up. A 1-2 for the Winfield Nissan team across the line. Mark Scaife taking the heat win, second going to Jim Richards, and third, a remarkable third, to the GIO Nissan GTR of Mark Gibbs of Sydney. Welcome to Sandown and round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. And let me tell you, there's been a tremendous build-up to today's big race here at Sandown. A huge crowd in attendance, participating with the grid walk to meet the top riders and the top drivers that we'll be seeing here in action today.
Dick Johnson off pole position in the Shell Sierra. Out of position 2, we'll have Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Out of position 3, his teammate Wayne Park in the second of the Sierras. Jim Richards in the first of the GTRs out of position 4, with his teammate Mark Scaife out of position 5.
And the Sierra's looking good at Sandown. Off to the start, the two Nissans just light up the racetrack, and they are long gone down into turn number 1. The Sierra sat there buzzing wheels, trying to get off the mark. They couldn't do it. The two Nissans, hard to get all that power through those fairly narrow tyres, Alan.
Sierras. Admittedly, the GTRs also have the turbo problem, but with the traction of the four-wheel drive, it just absolutely slingshots them from any position they're in.
Look at this. Up on the outside, we're talking about horsepower, and that's how quick the Sierras have been here since Friday at Sandown, as Johnson, with a huge cheer coming up the crowd, sits in behind Jimmy Richards. And there's our Dunlop race cam as we come up to the inside.
Make no mistake, this Turbo Ford is still a pretty fast car, and certainly in Dick Johnson's hands, a very effective tool around Sandown.
Great shot.
As Alan said earlier in the day, Dick really loves this circuit.
Well, here they come, past the start-finishing line for the first time. And Johnson, sitting in the draft to Jim Richards, pulls to the outside, and there he goes. But Richards comes back under brakes. Crowd got a huge thrill out of that. Johnson tacks in behind the Winfield Nissan. Great shots here from our Dunlop race camp. And John Bowe, in the second of the Dick Johnson cars, has made a brilliant start, keeping in mind John was the fastest man here yesterday. Car packed up this morning in the 3-lap trophy dash, blew an engine. They've repaired an engine in just over an hour.
No, they're doing well. I would have surprised that Dick didn't get Jim at the end of that straight. He was looking in a very good position, but the brakes on the GTR are superb, and Jim was able to hold him off. This is a tricky part of the circuit, very tricky. Whistling down through the S's. A tight left-hander here. No chance for any passing in this position. But John Bowe has already replaced Dick as a challenge to Jim Richards.
Here he comes. Down the outside as we take the Nissan race cam. And Jimmy Richards will now try and come back under brakes, but John had that sussed out fairly well. He took him early in the straight. Didn't wait till the last moment. So John Bowe of Tasmania leads heat number 1 today, round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Richards runs in second. Next is Dick Johnson and Mark Scaife in 4th place.
Bowe's the only guy running in the 15s at the moment, and he's certainly opening up the lead. There's the HRT Commodore. We won't see a lot of this car this year. I think they're only scheduled to run 3 rounds, but...
Pity they're not really running the entire Touring Car Championship. I mean, it is Holden's flagship, and hand-picking 3 of 8 or 9 races.
Not a big effort, really, is it? Any privateer
well, I
could
don't
do
think
that.
so,
Yeah.
particularly when you want some of the rules changed. But Thomas doing a good job. Not complaining about Thomas. He's out there driving when he's allowed to drive and when they have enough budget. But I would have thought a Holden Racing Team Enterprise controlled it by a Scott.
Well, you know where they like to keep their money.
Yeah, I think Tom does. I think Tom should get the message about touring cars in Australia.
All right, he just slammed her down from 6th down to 5th through the S's into 4th.
Down to 2nd, I am.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. You're going to have to give me a ride here to refresh my memory. Okay, up to 3rd. Do it yourself, Med. You can talk your way through. You don't need me.
Yeah, really. There's oil everywhere here, pal.
Uh-huh. Easy here on the left-hander. You had a little nudge here this morning in the trophy dash. Here we go. Nasty onto the straight. It's bumpy over the causeway.
Dick, this looks pretty good. Bowie's taken off like a scalded cat.
He must have my engine.
He must have. Someone's pulled a crook change on you this morning. He's opened up to about 6.5.
Yeah, I know. That's the gun engine I think they had for me for Simmons.
That's the one with the 8,500 RPM rev limiter on, is it?
Obviously.
It's good to see him come in for a win. He's really had pole position for the last 2 races, but he comes off the pit turn. Checkered flag time for John Bowe of Tasmania. He's going to do it very comfortably indeed. A 9-second break over team leader Dick Johnson in the number 17 car. 3rd place will go to Mark Scaife in the Nissan GTR. 4th to Jimmy Richards. And 5th will go to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra. About 10 seconds away. Heat number 2 of round 2, the Shell Australian Touring Car Nationals from Sandown Raceway. And John Bowe, I think, has got a problem with his car. Hand came out, but he's ready to go. He gets off slowly, and as expected, Richards goes straight down the outside. The problem was, though, that Mark Scaife missed the kick and was gobbled up by a whole fleet of Commodores as they go to the bottom corner.
I'll tell you what, the 2 Shell cars put a sandwich on the front of Mark Scaife there. Closed the door very effectively as he tried to leap off the line, but his teammate Richards just did the rocket up the outside, and he leads them round for the first lap. Tremendous start once again from the Nissan GTRs.
Jim knows what it's like to get up that inside line, and he knows he wants to be onto the back straight first, and he doesn't want anything but fresh air in front of him. But here, already challenged by John Bowe.
Here comes Bowie up the outside, car number 18.
Gee, there's
watch him try and get across very quickly to the left side of the road so he doesn't leave the gap open. No, he's able to hold it, and Dick Johnson of Queensland pulls it up into the 3rd spot. So it's fairly close. Thomas Mazira didn't get away to the best of start, and that looked like Peter Brock, who got away very well indeed. Skate back in position number 6.
Okay, as we come up onto the right-left, going into the main straight, a challenge under brakes by Johnson, having a go at Jim. John Bow's already well clear.
Isn't this great stuff as we take our Nissan race cam?
And right behind Dick should be Mark Gibbs. I think I saw him there before we changed shots. He's not there. So Jim's left a little bit of a gap on the GIO car as they break at the end of the straight. But Mark Gibbs is right up there too. A new lease of life for the GIO car. And Peter Brock in 05. You can't keep him down. Mind you, this is the 2nd heat. These tyres have already done the 20 laps in the 1st heat. So they'll be conscious of trying to conserve and stretch as much out of this rubber as they possibly can while still getting on with a hectic race.
Well, certainly Mark Gibbs is giving the GIO machine a good run. He's right in the slipstream behind the sister cars. This is a customer car built by Fred Gibson for Bob Forbes Corporation. And GIO, along with Windscreens O'Brien, have put a very nice team together here and running well in this 2nd heat.
And look at the little bimmer. This thing will get quicker.
Oh, hear the brakes lock.
Yes. He's got to be a little bit careful doing that to Peter Brock.
Seaton to 10, with a lot of work still to do. It gives you an idea of the fairly tight and twisting layout here at Sandown, particularly around the top end of the circuit.
Seeing plenty of brake lock-ups there. We won't want too much of that. These tires on their last legs, they've done the 20 laps in the 1st heat, and certainly flat spotting them under brakes not going to augur well for the last 5 or 6 laps.
Glenn Seaton has a look down the inside of Thomas Mazziel. Look at Thomas.
Locked it up.
He's out of control.
And protecting the corner. You see, he unbalanced himself, slammed on the brakes, and
oops, and at Wayne Park or Glenn Seaton may have been in the aftermath of all that.
Nasty one. That's life in the fast lane. That was definitely Thomas getting a little bit edgy, tried to protect the corner.
Yep, and he was very, very late on the brakes too, when I saw him.
And unsettled the car, locked up the rear, and he was wise to let it go. But that Armco was quite close to the circuit there in the S's. Here we go again.
Have a look at this on the replay. As Thomas has already gone. He's off to Gowings here. And it starts to use all of the racetrack. It's headed onto the grass. There's guardrail coming up. But Seaton has gone through and just got the car tally, or there may have even been some oil there.
Possible.
Have a look, because he was sideways just about the same time as Thomas.
Now, if you look at here, Thomas is really hard on the brakes, and that's when the car gets out of shape, and that's when he loses it. He's just a little bit out of shape there. He's offline.
There. He just waited a bit too long and ran out of ground.
And it's getting hot at the front of the field. They're over half distance now, with Dick Johnson running in the 2nd spot, and Jimmy Richards closing all the time as we take the Nissan race cam down to the left-hander.
Yes, you can see the acceleration off that left-hander. The 4-wheel drive cars just leap out of the tight corners. Dick starting to lose it. He got a little bit tight there. That's touch. You can't blame Jim for that. Dick had the same problem that Thomas Mazira just had. Just locked her up a bit under brakes and had to give way. That's the tires going off on him. Now here, horsepower taking over, ramrodding it up the back straight, and he said, I'll have a go. If he's got enough time, yes, he can come across.
Got to get across the inside.
You know one thing for sure, Jim Richards will never hit anybody in a corner like that. He might give you a little tap in a slow corner like we just experienced, but not a high-speed corner like that at the end of the back straight. And here, Dick definitely hurting. He's using the curbs everywhere. He's just losing control of the car at the pace he has to go, or the pace that Jim is forcing him to go. You'll see that Chelsea are just slopping around a bit. Oh, another bounce and a flip, and this time Dick definitely went.
Yep.
Jim driving forcefully, I'd have to say, not ungentlemanly. That was life in the fast lane. Dick Johnson definitely losing control of his car. And by that I mean the tires just getting soggy on him, and he just couldn't maintain the pace that was being exerted on him by the GTR.
Order is John Bowe, the race leader in the Shell Sierra, running in 2nd place. Jim Richards in the Winfield Nissan. 3rd spot to Mark Scaife in the 2nd of the Nissans. And then, of course, back there in 4th spot is Mark Gibbs in the GIO Nissan, and then Peter Brock. That's the order as Larry Perkins, Larry and Dick Johnson.
These guys are getting, so this is where the drivers are going to have to exert all the experience they've got. Larry saved that beautifully, but less experienced driver may have been in a lot of trouble there. That's 1,300 kilos of metal going for a ride, and the tires have said, look, we've done our bit. You're asking too much from us. Larry definitely skating around now. I think it's only a matter of time before Tony Longhurst gets the bite on him. Nice slipstream here up the front straight. Not quite close enough. The old Commodore still holding him off.
Going to take one big lick here under brakes as he goes through on the inside of Larry, so he moves up a spot.
He'd have difficulty matching a BMW under brakes, but Larry's got some good grunt out of the corner.
Larry didn't give it away.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. Let's have a look at a replay we've got for you. This incident with Larry Perkins, when Larry gets the tail out, there's Wayne Park in 35. He's jumped over the curb and he's gone straight out to South Melbourne. So Park off the racetrack and rejoins again. Perkins position number 7. It's been quite an outstanding drive for Larry Perkins. Bo leads now by 4.8 seconds.
So he'll be counting every lap to go now. It'll be a nightmare for him. This will be the longest 3 or 4 laps he's had for a long time, but still, by any measure, a reasonably comfortable lead from Jim Richards at the moment.
Oh, plenty of fisticuffs back here,
yeah,
too.
if you want to put the nose up inside Larry, you've got to fight for it. He doesn't give way.
Larry can make that car 13 feet wide if he wants to. He's a tough customer.
And a good result for the Shell Johnson team as John Bowe still leads them down to the pits for the final time. Everyone standing next to the pit wall. Bowie's been chasing one of these for ages, and today he wins this one on merit all the way. Last turn. Spectators stand in the grandstand. John Bowe. Clean sweep today for the Johnson team at Sandown. They take round number 2. Mark Scaife in the Nissan finishes in 2nd, and 3rd place will go to Jim Richards. And he deserves all the accolades today, John Bowe.
He did extremely well.
I must say that's a great return to form for the Ford Sierra.
Certainly is, Mark. It's a great effort by all the guys in the Shell team. They made a very good car for me to drive today, and the Dunlop tyres were tremendous, so we've really made some inroads lately.
Welcome to Simmons Plains and round 3 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Mark Scaife and Jim Richards top the leaderboard in their Nissan GTRs. Well, when we left Simmons Plains last night, John Bowe had pole position. Of course, the Peter Jackson Dash opens proceedings on a Sunday morning, and unfortunately, John Bowe pulled position number 6. Here we are with the start. Glenn Seaton pulled number 1 out of the bag, and he led early from Dick Johnson. Then we saw Johnson streak around the outside, having a little contact and a little bodywork hanging off the car there, but he was still able to outdistance himself. It was a fantastic drive from Dick Johnson and gave him the opportunity, of course, to sit on pole position today. But if I guess one driver is disappointed, it's John Bowe, who has been the fastest man in 3 touring car rounds, but will start not off pole today. Off the start, has Seaton won it? He sure has. He gets away quickly, but John Bowe in the number 18 car picks up a gear and comes up smartly as they come up to the first corner. And Mark Gibbs on the outside, that is not the line to the first turn. He's going to get caught very wide here, but he goes in deep, and he'll get plenty of acceleration off that 4-wheel drive car as he comes off the bend. As John Bowe tries to get to the outside of Dick Johnson. He's a little quicker than Gibbs coming down the back straight, but it's Glenn Seaton who will lead them down through the curve. Johnson right on his tail, then comes John Bowe.
Here comes Brock down the outside of Gibbs as they head into the hairpin. And the Commodore's having quite a competitive run here, considering they haven't had a lot of testing time. Brock run down the outside, not the place to be. Gibbs gets the acceleration of the 4-wheel drive Nissan out of there a little bit better. But watch the power advantage of the Commodore. Up about 50 horsepower on the GTR and 100 kilograms lighter. This is where power to weight ratios come into play. Here's Scaife running in 6th position. His teammate Richards is still round the back of the field. And that's a real change from last year. 12 months can make a lot of difference in motor racing.
And John Bowe in car number 18 getting to the outside of team leader Dick Johnson. That moves him up into 2nd. Johnson back to 3rd now. Meanwhile, Glenn Seaton gets away from the pack in car number 30, the Peter Jackson entry. The exit to the hairpin, and Mark Scaife, car number 2, finding the inside line there on Peter Brock.
There's Wayne Park still in the pits with some sort of major engine problem. That's a great disappointment for the young Queenslander. The Commodores are struggling around here. Oh, look at that massive brake lock up there.
Oh, and he's gone. It must have a puncture.
Now he's in the soft stuff. He's got the foot into it to try and get a bit of traction. He might get out.
Yeah, I think he'll get out okay. It's fairly dry down there, as you can see. Problem here for Wayne Park sitting it out in the pits, and Glenn Seaton in car number 30. Oh, right behind Seaton, there's one gone. Bauer's gone sideways.
They must be jumping on the brakes down into the hairpin more than we anticipated. It is a tough corner. You do have to pull up for it, but he's resorted to reversing out of the way. It looks like a lot of oil dripping out of that engine, Michael. I think he can kiss it goodbye. He's just being polite here and getting out of the corner. He's not even trying to.
It wasn't just a wild spin, something let go, and maybe he lit up the bags on the oil, so who knows, but that's a major problem for John Bowe, and I tell you what, it has left an enormous amount of oil down there.
Side by side, door handle to door handle down the back straight. This is the battle for 5th and 6th. Richards has a nose in front, but Gibbs has probably got the best position.
He can stay with him as long as he stays parallel with him, but he had to.
And Jim's trying
discretion.
Listen, race cam shows us Richards goes a little bit deeper under brakes and leads Gibbs out of the corner, so he moves up to 5th. Gibbs goes one back down to 6th.
He's coming down to the last series of turns. This will give them some joy. The Peter Jacksons here of Glenn Seaton comes out, heading down to take the checkered flag. So Seaton takes heat number 1. Dickie Johnson easing up, coming across the line, takes second. Not too far behind him was Mark Scaife, followed by Tony Longhurst. Then Jimmy Richards, Mark Gibbs and Alan Jones. Neil Crompton the next one, and Wayne Park rounding out the finishes. Only a few seconds away from the start of the second heat, the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Simmons Plains. The 2 Sierras on the front row. Off the start, the 2 Nissans get away beautifully. And it's a full drag as they go to the first turn. The BMW got away, and it's going to be Glenn Seaton on the inside and Dick Johnson the outside. Now Johnson's got to get across and tuck in behind Seaton. Look at Longhurst going right around them, and he'll pay the penalty as far as horsepower is concerned on the exit to that turn. But it'll be Seaton looking for 2 out of 2 as he comes down to the right-hand kink, and he'll lead the field as they start to build up to full-on speed. Seaton opens it up to 2 car lengths over Johnson. Then you've got the little bimmer up on the inside of Mark Scaife. Fascinating this. And of course Neil Crompton in there as well, and Peter Brock starting from the back of the field with a 10-second penalty.
Look at Crompton pushing his way through the pack there. Longhurst, by way of his excellent start in the first heat, starting 4th on the grid, and he's been pushed back in the power race up the back straight for the first time. But there's Crompton up there in 4th position. That's a great start from him.
They come across under the line, 1 lap down, still a lot to go. Glenn Seaton in the 30 car leads from Johnson. And now watch the acceleration here, the exit to this turn. Mark Scaife dives in, pulls back on the inside. Now watch the horsepower, 4-wheel drive, no advantage, huh?
No, not much.
But well, watch Johnson now with horsepower.
And hasn't it got some horsepower? Johnson leaves Scaife behind as they head the back straight into the loop for the first time. The Ford not lacking in front. But look at Crompton. This is a great run from Niels on Wheels. Hasn't been happy with the car all the weekend. He wasn't happy with the handling in the first heat. It's his first time at Simmons Plains, and he's really enjoying himself in this second heat, up in 4th place.
Well, this is good stuff, and there's plenty happening even back behind this group as Mark Scaife works to the outside. He's trying to get a line here on Johnson.
Scaife's getting aggravated now, Michael. You can see he's bound. When you see the car wobbling like that, he's pushing it to the limit. He's really getting frustrated by Dick's position here. Dick taking all the lines he should to protect his line of attack, but here we have the Winfield Nissan coming up on the outside. It's not going to do him a lot of good. Little under brakes. He's taking the dive.
Okay, he'll go through. He picks the inside rear wheel up on the curb on the exit.
Bond has been snookered by Dick.
Oh,
He gives him a
out of
hefty. There was plenty of body contact
You
there.
taught him well, Al.
Yeah, Colin wants to make up for it. Well, that's what you can do when you have the confidence with the tires, and let's be kind to the others. He's got a brand new fresh car here, fresh engine and fresh tires, so he can thrash it around the corners much more confidently. Dick is struggling around on a set that he's already given pretty much a serve of curry in the first heat, but I think Neil's doing extremely well here. We must compliment him.
I get the feeling that Dick may be holding him up, certainly on some sections of the circuit.
Well, I'll tell you what, in reading this one, I think you find that the next maybe 5 or 6 laps, you're going to see Bond make an absolute charge at Mark Scaife. They come off the Dunlop Bridge area. That's Alan Jones going through. There's Johnson. Right behind him, Neil Crompton. Up on the inside comes Wayne Park in the second of the PJ cars. Come on, Dick, he said, get on with it.
Gives him a serve. There's plenty of glass flying everywhere. Look at this gaggle of cars behind them. The 2 Nissans, Dick Johnson and the other Alan Jones BMW locked in behind there. This is a terrific race. As you can see, here he goes outside Scaife as they head under brakes. The GTR is very strong in the braking department. Bond going deeper and deeper. He's done it easily.
The big thing now, Alan, is that Bondi could actually be the series spoiler for today. Seaton really, after losing points at Sandown last weekend where he had a terrible time, Bondi hasn't run the first heat. And if he gets Seaton, he's going to cost Seaton some points here today, and Seaton really did need those 30 series points at the end of the afternoon. Coming up underneath the Dunlop Bridge, and here comes Jim Richards, working to the outside, but Dick's already there, and Dick will stay to the inside as they go up to the left-hander, and actually gets away from Jim. Now the brakes as Longhurst, I think the moment of truth.
And went just a little bit wide there to let Crompton know that he had taken charge of that corner. He just cost Crompton a little bit of time there, couldn't quite get on. He's having another go at him, but that was a very nice strategic move by Tony Longhurst. Just ever so subtle.
It was.
A bit further back there, behind that battle, is Johnson and Richards. Johnson's doing a remarkable job to hold Richards off up till now, but Jim sneaks through.
He knows he has the race won at this stage, and he's driven a great 2 races here today at Simmons Plains. The dust has been on the circuit up at that top end all day. They're coming down to the final series of heats, and the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra of Glenn Seaton comes up with a double at round 3 today at Simmons Plains, Tasmania. He wins from Colin Bonds, Caltech Sierra, and 3rd goes to Mark Scaife in the Nissan. 4th going to Park, and 5th to Jimmy Richards.
Well done, Glenn. Great to see you back in form. The Peter Jackson car running extraordinarily well.
Yeah, it's actually running very well. I was very surprised at how our form was today. I'm very, very happy. But once we start to get to the circuits at the end of the rounds, we're going to find it fairly hard in the tight circuits. So these are the circuits that suited us.
So, progressive points after 3 rounds. Scaife the leader on 84, Richards on 72, Seaton on 66 now, and Dick Johnson 57. Welcome to Winton Motor Raceway and round 4 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, Team Nissan have been extremely hard to beat at Winton over the past 4 years, and I'm quite sure my co-commentator Alan Moffat feels the same way as I do. They'll be tough to beat here today, Alan.
They will be, Mike. The 4-wheel drive comes into its own here, short jig-jag corners, and they only have to pick the right tyre combination and they'll be in good shape.
The Peter Jackson Dash early on Sunday morning provides plenty of action. And, of course, the draw for starting positions is even more interesting. Today, of course, we saw Mark Scaife get off from the front row. Second spot held by Glenn Seaton in the number 30 Peter Jackson Sierra, and right behind him was Jimmy Richards, who unfortunately just couldn't come up with victory. So Jimmy Richards was fastest in practice yesterday, but Mark Scaife has pole for today, and Glenn Seaton alongside him. They sat there, and Scaife went out, and so did Richards. Through quickly went John Bow on the inside of Larry Perkins as they come down to the right-hander, and this is really just a funnel as they come off the straight. Then they work downhill slightly to another right-hander that sees the 2 Nissans with Scaife opening it up to 3 car lengths over Jimmy Richards. Right behind him is Glenn Seaton, then followed by John Bow. Next on the queue is Larry Perkins. Dick Johnson was up pretty smartly as they went through there, and I think perhaps then Peter Brock. That's the order. And you just can't beat that 4-wheel drive car off the line, Alan Moffat.
No, you can't, but Glenn Seaton was holding his engine beautifully. He looked like he was going to get a very good start, and just at the very last second before the light went to green, he backed off momentarily and stalled his slingshot shot, and that gave Jim Richards the chance he needed.
That's all Richards did need, because Scaife opens it up to about 5 car lengths coming down the back straight. And here's Mark Gibbs in the GIO coming down on the inside here of Peter Brock.
Certainly Bob Forbes expected this to happen, to see the GIO car pushing its way through the field. This car was very quick here on Friday and Saturday, but Mark admits that in qualifying he just stuffed it up. He just couldn't put a good lap together, and he ended up down the grid. But as you can see, the times of the grid were very tight, and certainly Bob Forbes expected Mark to push his way through the field, which he's doing now.
But I think Longhurst, Alan, is perhaps just a little bit closer. In fact, it's Brock who's starting to do a bit of defensive driving now to keep Tony Longhurst at bay. So keep an eye on this when they come through the S's and work the front straight, and particularly the braking area for the next right-hander. Now he's almost line astern, comes down the inside. If he can keep on under brakes, here he comes, moment of truth on the inside. And you watch Jones up on the inside. They're going to hang Brock out to dry here. Beautiful driving from the Bimmer pair. Fascinating stuff, this. David and Goliath as Tony Longhurst and Alan Jones in the Benson and Hedges car muscle their way past Peter Brock. We take Dunlop race cam. Here's Tony Longhurst down the inside. Jones just sits right behind him. And they're in a lot of traffic here, as you can see, they're taking the right-hander at Penrite.
9 laps to go. This is the battle for 7th, 8th and 9th. And here comes Tony again.
He won't get Dick there, but he might be able to get him under brakes again, where he and Alan Jones were able to nobble Brock a couple of laps ago.
He's not quite close enough this time, and
he is now.
That's all he needed. That's all he needed.
Down the inside, let's see. There he goes on the inside. Now, can Johnson get back on the inside? Yes. Dick read that pretty good. He had to try and keep Alan Jones, but Jones goes snip, 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 and a bit of tug. Johnson's got one wheel in the rough, and this dice continues.
Well, these BMW guys are trying hard here today. They're really fair dinkum here, and you'd almost think that Alan Jones and Tony were changing gears in unison. Jones is determined to let Dick Johnson know the track is his. They need to get in front of the Sierra to go after the leaders.
This has been an outstanding performance as they come up to the line. Checkered flag ready, and it'll be Mark Scaife in the number 2 Winfield Nissan that gets across the line. Jimmy Richards in the number 1 Winfield Nissan runs in second spot. The Peter Jackson Sierra of Glenn Seaton takes third. Perkins will be fourth. Fifth will be Bauer. Sixth will be Tony Longhurst. And seventh, Alan Jones. And let me tell you, that was a most entertaining touring car race. 10 seconds away from the start. Heat number 2, round 4 from Winton Motor Raceway.
Come on.
Racing, getting off the line first of all was Jimmy Richards, but I tell you what, it's everyone and his dog. They're 4 wide, dropping into the right-hander. That is the longest 10 seconds I can recall for ages. The 2 Winfield Nissans.
One of the shell cars spun on the opening corner there. Brock's involved as well. There's Wayne Park. I saw one, that was Johnson. I saw one of the shell cars spin in the middle of the pack there.
Whoa, Dickie catches it 360 and floors it. Now that'll put some heat into the tyres. That was not the start that Dick Johnson needed. We'll have a look at that on replay later as we take them coming up into the top end. John Bauer drops into the 3rd spot. Glenn Seaton is 4th. Larry Perkins is 5th. And then Tony Longhurst is 6th. That's the order as they rush up through Tui's turn, now through Champion, and they come down the back straight. The 2 Nissans out very, very comfortably at this stage.
It's going to be interesting to watch the progress of the BMWs in this race too, Michael. They're already looking outside Larry Perkins there. Larry did a very consistent run. The car's obviously well balanced in the first heat, but the BMW's tyre wear will probably just give them the edge in this second race.
Coming up across the strike, the complete of the first lap. Jim Richards as your race leader as we pick up through the replay here as John Bauer gets down in there. Here comes Johnson. Nothing untoward there, so something has happened on the inside of Johnson. Wayne Park goes the outside. Brock gets caught up on the way through, and I think it may have even been Paul Morris on the inside. And that's how Dickie wound up facing the wrong way.
Johnson into the pits now. Get some new tyres on there. They'd be nice and flat spotted. Scaife just took Richards for first place. Snuck down the inside of the corner there. John Bauer on the Shell Sierra. Showing great consistency in the Shell cars. As I said, with these new Dunlop tyres, they're doing a lot of work. Getting good consistency out of them around Winton. Then there's Seaton. So it's the 2 Nissans and the Sierra Brigade, as we saw in the first heat. Larry Perkins in 5th place.
Yeah, mate, I can hear you, Mike.
Can you? What actually happened? Looked like you got nobbled from the inside.
Well, I think Brocky's obviously losing his touch a bit. He sort of just T-boned me in the door. But that's part and parcel of what we're here for, I suppose.
Yeah, but no one wants to go out in the first turn. You put a lot of effort into it. I was going to say it's a pretty tight first turn anyway.
It's a very tight first corner, and there's actually a lot of incidents happen there, but there's not very far between there and the start, so they're the sort of things that happen every now and then.
Probably most of the sparks at Winton flew at the press conference following qualifying yesterday. Larry Perkins opening up in the biggest tirade about a non-appearance by Holden Racing Team. I alluded that some weeks ago. They're only running selected rounds this year. John Crennan of Holden Racing Team was was pointing out to me at the recent Dunlop Media Awards that 65% of their budget for 1992 is going to Tom Walkinshaw for the development of the VP car for next year.
Yes, Mike, but next year is next year, and I thought the Pentagon operates in this year, we spend this year's money, and next year we spend next year's money. So I'm not really buying that. They represent the factory. Holden, the fans around the country have relied on the Holden involvement. They've gone to all the trouble of producing the Group A cars over the last 5 or 6 years, and then all of a sudden life's too hard for them. I haven't got a lot of sympathy for the situation.
No, well, I just point that out. John has pointed out also that he's under a lot of pressure from a lot of Holden dealers around Australia who also want to know, but that is that's the factory line, that 65% of their budget for 92 has gone to the development of what they believe will be a winning car next year. Let's just wait and see.
Where they are, and driving quite considerably.
Oh,
Larry
Lightning Larry opens up the bags.
Yeah.
Two
2 tires gone
BMWs.
off. That's all that was. The car leaning into that corner, not a very fast corner, but the full lateral force of the weight of the car. And
Big dust cloud. Can't see who that is.
Now, whether the two BMWs can force the issue with Glenn Seaton and John Bowe, we'll have to wait and see. Larry's dropped back. He has probably lost about 5 or 6 car lengths, plus a couple of rungs on the ladder as well.
I'd say that beyond, for sure, the aggressiveness of the two yellow cars, certainly there, just the slightest mistake. Glenn slipped off the pace. Larry's nailed him. So this is one thing you can say about the Winton course. It might be a little bit on the Mickey Mouse twisty side, but by the same token, make the slightest mistake and you're out of the race.
Okay, Jimmy Richards, we take Nissan race cam. He rides behind team partner Mark Scaife as they go up into the left-hander. Now just listen to the engine revs, and that'll tell you how hard they're working.
Well, I think my idol on my old Vespa scooter used to run a little higher than that.
John Bowe is hanging on. And if he's come this far, Alan, I guess there's a good chance he's going to do it.
He could actually pull it off. I think this is a sterling job. He's really doing well. And you have to compliment the fellows behind that are aggravating such an aggressive attack in such a sporting manner. They're not touching. We've seen him, couldn't get any closer than that.
Just look at this. The acceleration out of this turn is sensational. But obviously, JB uses the line, which is across to the right for the next turn. That's not to say that Tony doesn't keep in on the paint and just keep worrying him all the time, then gets the half a slingshot, but got the car sideways on the exit, gets a finger out the window. So Tony knows he's rattling him.
Well, we're one bonnet down already. I can see 3 dents in the front of that BMW. That's one bonnet for Monday morning repairs.
I think Ronnie Meacham wouldn't mind paying for those. They've got 2 laps to go, and here's Longhurst perfectly positioned, but they came up on a slower car, and that was the end of that one. Now, Glenn Seaton is back in it. He wants a slice of championship points, but the chances of Glenn being able to hose off the 3 in front of him are negligible, because Bowe gets away just a touch here from Tony Longhurst.
Well, the further Glenn slips down the field, the further he gets away from the Nissans in the points chase. He's 3rd in the championship at the moment, so if the Nissans get 1st and 2nd and he gets 6th, that's really going to damage his championship hopes.
Well, that's what it's looking as Glenn goes up and takes Alan Jones out.
Yes, definitely.
And all's fair in love and war. I guess Jonesy won't beef too much about it, but he really dived in, and that's what you really call being hung out to dry.
Meanwhile, Mark Scaife's back in 1st position. Jim Richards in 2nd. And 2 wins from 2 starts.
You started all of this, Alan, with your form finish.
Yes, thank you very much. But the only trouble, Michael, I'm having trouble remembering how long ago that was.
Well, they take the 1 lap signal. So 1 to go for Mark Scaife leading from Jimmy Richards. 3rd still to be resolved, John Bowe. Tony Longhurst.
I was going to say, Michael, that BMW is getting more and more dented every time they come round here. Look at the bonnet.
Well, he's put a great show on for the fans here. There's Bowe, he's gone.
He's done it.
He said, that's enough, I've had it.
Hang on, John.
Bowe off into the kitty litter.
Yeah. Did well to save it. Well, not to hit a fence. That was a little unfortunate, I think.
He will not be a happy boy.
Lost his battle with his frustration, and
if it rains, he's okay. The wipers are on. Final lap, and it's Mark Scaife in car number 2, the Winfield Nissan. Jimmy Richards closing it up for a form finish. Obviously, it's been set for Mark Scaife to win the championship this year. They come down the back straight. That's going to put Longhurst up into 3rd spot. I think Glenn Seaton probably to 4th and Alan Jones maybe 5th. That looks like the order as they come to the S's for the final time. We've got an Australian Touring Car Championship by Shell that's well and truly alive. Round 4 at Winton, the Nissans for Winfield Strike across the line. It's Mark Scaife to win it from gentleman Jim Richards. The giant-killing performance from Tony Longhurst takes 3rd. Glenn Seaton picks up a 4th. Jonesy takes 5th. Perkins takes 6th.
Great effort. The Nissans, if you don't mind me saying, looked to be doing it pretty easy from the commentary box.
Oh, well, they're a very good car, and this sort of circuit suits them. So, you know, in the early part of the race, we got a bit of a buffer and then tried to conserve the tyre. We were waiting for either Glenn or the little BMWs to catch us.
So, points after 4 rounds. Mark Scaife for the Winfield team leads on 114. Jimmy Richards runs in 2nd on 99. Glenn Seaton still in it, 90 points, clear of Mark Gibbs on 70. And Dickie Johnson rounds out the 5 with 68 points. And welcome to Lakeside Raceway in Brisbane and, of course, round 5 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Holden very well represented at Lakeside today. Peter Brock is here. Thomas Mazira, who got away this morning in the Peter Jackson Dash. Got away, that's correct. Got away on the grass and finished last. He'll do it fairly tough today out of position number 6. Mark Oastler, our man in the pits today. Mark, Freddie Gibson not too happy about the 100-kilo additional weight.
He's certainly not happy about it, Michael, and it's been a long time, as you say, since we've seen the Nissans out of the top 10. I think the accusations and the criticisms about Nissans sandbagging has really reached boiling point this weekend at Lakeside.
OK, Mark, we'll follow that and you'll bring us all the action from the pits. Off the line goes Bow. See ya! Perkins down the outside. Longhurst goes after him. Mazira tries to fight down the inside, as you'll see here. Mazira in amongst a whole wall of cars, and there's one going out. Mark Gibson, the GIO Commodore. They parked the Nissan this weekend and elected to run with the Commodore. He'll need to get back on the track and in a hurry. Out of the carousel. Looks like Pitt Street Friday afternoon around 5 p.m. But it's Bow in front. Moving up very quickly into the 2nd spot was Larry Perkins, who got a brilliant start, Alan Moffat.
Yes, he did, mate, and Colin Bond absolutely stood on the start line. John Bow got an immaculate start. Absolutely one of the best starts I've ever seen John take off the front row. But certainly Larry Perkins shot from the 3rd row of the grid up into 2nd spot, and he's going to be very hard to get by from Tony Longhurst. Compliments to Larry Perkins. He's only run this car twice this year, twice in the top 6, and here running a very strong 2nd.
Looks like Dick Johnson may have a flat tyre. He's headed for the pits, coming in for a quick changeover now.
He is all over Bow like a rash, and look at Tony Longhurst just hanging in there waiting for either of these two in front to make a mistake. That's not likely, I wouldn't think, but he's hoping. And if he gets onto John Bow's tail, well, memories of Winton will come flooding back.
Yes, but they better not come flooding back too quickly, because Winton cost Tony $5,000 for his efforts for that. But we can't get any closer than that. Larry is definitely, he's a charger this weekend. He's got the bit between his teeth. He was very proud of his position yesterday. Held off a reasonable position in the dash this morning. And here he is in the lead of a Group A touring car race. A great run, Larry Perkins.
Look at the crowd, Wilco, as he stretches it across the line. They're all standing, waving, as Lightning Larry takes the Castrol Commodore down to the carousel. And keep an eye on Tony Longhurst.
Terrific job by Glenn Seaton getting up to 4th place in the race. Still got a lot of work to do to haul in the top bracket. Mark Scaife, of course, running in 5th. 2nd of the BMWs, Alan Jones slotted in right behind him.
Pokes the nose again down on the inside. Longhurst side by side, door handle to door handle here with John Bow, and passes him on the inside just as he gets beneath the Dunlop Bridge, runs downhill to Hungry Corner. Will Larry Perkins be next?
Superb driving. Very, very patiently sat in the slipstream. And I believe John Bow just got a little bit wide coming out of the carousel, and that's all Tony Longhurst needed.
AJ keeping right on the tail of Jimmy Richards' Winfield Nissan as they go beneath the Dunlop Bridge and come down. See Jonesy goes the inside. Yes, he does. So we're seeing Tony on the outside and now Alan on the inside. Great little passing area for the BMWs.
Now Tony will monster Larry. He won't put up with too much hindrance here, but by the same token, if he touches that Commodore, he's going to come off 2nd best. That's 1,300 kilos of very firm metal sitting there.
Well, Larry's been all fired up. Here comes Longhurst. Oh, got him. Yes, what a beautiful manoeuvre, and so simple the way he did it.
Well, The BMWs were outstanding here last year. They're carrying another 20 kilos more this year than last at this stage of the season. But Lakeside is home territory for Frank Gardner, Tony Longhurst and the Benson and Hedges team. Brakes, as Alan has said, may well be the problem.
This is very dangerous there, Michael, coming through that left-hander. They're doing over 220 Ks, and just the slightest amount of misjudgment. And John getting a little bit annoyed with Larry there. He's certainly...
Larry will drive him off the damn racetrack if he pulls too much of that stuff on.
Well, that allowed Mark Scaife to move up one notch.
That cost John his endeavour there. He's pushed the front guard onto his own tyre. He got a little annoyed. He didn't show the patience that Tony Longhurst exerted and had to put up with for many laps. And you just can't nudge.
We take our race cam sitting on the top of Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson Sierra. He's mixed up in all of this. Oh, there goes one of those little Corollas, I think it was, off the racetrack, right caught up in that massive cars.
I'm very concerned about John Bow's tyre. He must know himself. He can see that smoke. I hope he knows how much rubber is sitting on that Dunlop tyre, but not the kind of place you want to have a blowout. But he's coming back at Larry. He's not giving up. He's going to try it again. And this time he's actually right up alongside. He's going to do the same move that Tony Longhurst executed and has managed to do it.
He could possibly get down. You can see him 2 cars ahead on the inside, and that's exactly what he did to Perkins. So Alan Jones storming through. He's been able to pass quite a number of them. Coming off the hill now, we're looking for the checkered flag as they come down. Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges BMW. The checkered flag is out. David and Goliath. Round 1 here today has gone to David. Across the line into second spot will be Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan. Third will be John Bauer in the Shell Sierra. Alan Jones finishes 4th in the second of the B&H BMWs. Richards 5th, Seaton 6th, and Larry Perkins 7th. What's that, a Brock Boater and a Dick hat? Right at the back this afternoon, Larry Perkins, Mark Scaife, Kevin Waldock, Terry Finnegan and Bob Jones, all because of tyres, Alan Moffat.
Yes, they've scuffed their tyres beyond repair in the first heat, and they've asked for replacement tyres. They've been granted that, but they suffer the indignity of starting from the back of the field, plus a 10-second delay. So we've got a double start.
A long 10 seconds, but Bow gets off the line, and there goes Richards down the outside. See ya, boys. 4-wheel drive. Just zooms off the start as everyone thought he would. John Bow immediately drops into second. Next is Tony Longhurst, and right behind him is Alan Jones. Those starting from the back of the field have got a lot of work to do. They have to be careful in the opening couple of laps of this race. Perkins trying to come through the pack. There's Johnson. He's lined up in car number 17 after problems earlier today. They're through the carousel on their way to the Dunlop Bridge and the run downhill to the left-hander at Hungary Corner. Wow, race cam in Dick Johnson's car shows it all. As Johnson gets away from Colin Bond, that was through Hungary Corner. Keeping in mind that Dick hasn't had the best of days so far, but they've been able to repair the car.
He may be a little bit tippy-toeing on his own tires, but Dick thrashing there now, using every little bit of the track and onto the slipstream here. Not particularly nice place to have to do it, but good on you, mate. Nailed him.
Good pass, too.
Very good pass. And now we'll take advantage of brakes, and Brocky looming up for another go, but he'll lose his momentum through the chicane here.
I reckon Tony would be better off sending Bowie up for a pass on the inside if he could get him at the end of the front straight, because I'm sure John's convinced, well, ever he protects the entrance to Hungary, he's got Tony under control.
And Jim Richards just ahead of them now, starting to overhaul some of the slower traffic. So this is going to make it interesting for Bow and Longhurst as they get mixed up with these other cars.
Yeah, Richards is starting to disappear now. I'd say he gained another car length or maybe two over in the last two laps.
Oh,
Here's
look at
Wilmington.
this. This is beautiful.
He's got him.
Down the inside.
Snooker.
Bad play, snooker, Gary, exactly. Not even in off. That was a beautiful snooker. And Tony found John Bow asleep at the wheel. Should have seen that on the horizon.
And now he's got Alan Jones all over him.
Yeah. Yeah, great little passing move here from Tony Longhurst. I tell you, poor old JB will hang his head in shame in the transporter later. Here comes Paul Morris through on the inside. He's driving a splendid race. The third of the B&H BMWs. Is now AJ moves up on the tail of Johnny Bow. Dust everywhere here at Lakeside, and that is Jimmy Richards in car number 1, who appeared to have a brake lock up. He went off the circuit on the approach to the carousel. Now Richards is trying to claw his way back. Tony Longhurst has taken off like Tony the Tiger. He's put space between himself and the rest of the field so far after Richards. Let's have a look at the replay. We take the Nissan race cam out the back of Jimmy Richards' car, and he got the tail out.
Got wide on the exit of the right-hander and just rode it out, and great driver that he is, he didn't hit that wall. Anybody else would have spearheaded themselves right into the bank, but he saved it. But naturally, Tony slipped by.
Dick Johnson carrying out Dunlop race cam. Just behind him is Glenn Seaton. We'll spin it around and have a look what Dick's doing.
And just ahead of him, Kevin Waldock.
Kevin locked up one on the way in by the look of it. Meanwhile, AJ works over John Bauer. Jones looking for a 3rd spot on the rostrum here today. Now, he pokes the nose down on the inside. Oh, it sends him on his way.
I was waiting for that. Tony wasn't doing that. He'd earned his first 5,000 last round at Winton.
Ah, dearie me.
That was a little cheeky on Allen's part. Down under brakes here now. Car bobbing a little bit. That extra weight certainly making the springs work for themselves.
There's Jimmy at work. Meanwhile, Paul Morris in the 3rd of the Bimmers has actually got a feeling that he might challenge Jonesy.
Yeah, well, I hope that's all he has is a feeling.
Here is Tony Longhurst, last corner coming up. The dream team, the Benson and Hedges squad, coming out of the last corner, and it has been a fantastic day for Tony Longhurst. 2 heats, and he's come up a winner twice here today at Lakeside. 2nd spot is going to go to Jimmy Richards in the Winfield Nissan GTR, and 3rd will go to Alan Jones in the 2nd of the Benson and Hedges BMWs.
A brave fight from Mark Scaife, I must say, in the 1st round. Yourself in the 2nd heat. And I'm not criticising your diet, but maybe you're a little overweight.
We are a little overweight, but unfortunately it's not the driver.
Listen, you've got yourself in a little tangle here on the kink.
Yes, we sort of take the kink flat out now, and with the extra weight, it just bounced the car too far off the circuit and I ended up on the grass. So I had to sort of put the brakes on the grass, which wasn't too good.
Well, we're certainly getting plenty of close racing.
Yes, we are.
Tony Longhurst, congratulations, BMWs today. Yourself in particular put up a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased when my mate that doesn't make too many mistakes slipped off. I think he would have been a hard guy to pass. You know, I believe the rules are very close now, and I'm just so pleased to be up there again.
Let's take a look at the points table, how they are after round 5. Mark Scaife is your leader, 133 to 126 Richards. Seaton on 104, Longhurst 90 and John Bauer 81. Welcome to Eastern Creek Raceway in Sydney and round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. When we left here yesterday, John Bauer had pole position, but of course his teammate Dick Johnson drew the outside of the front row. And as you can see, Mark Scaife got away to a rather slow start. That put John Bauer and Dick Johnson up chasing 1-2, and that's exactly where they finished. Johnson looking quite keen there as he got away from John Bauer. And Larry Perkins, of course, was to finish in 3rd place.
And there's Thomas Mazira at the back of the field. And yesterday, Thomas in the Holden Racing Team Commodore had a very difficult qualifying on his flying lap in the fast left-hander at the end of the long straight. He got out in the grass here, got the car all sideways, slammed the wall and roped that car off. Terry Finnegan very lucky to miss Thomas Mazira. You can see the damage done to the HRT Commodore. So last night the crew went to enormous lengths to change engines and gearboxes and get this spare car ready. He'll run from the back of the grid with a 10-second penalty with new tyres.
Round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Eastern Creek. They're racing, and look at Scaife, straight between the pair of them. 4-wheel drive, no advantage? Don't you believe it? Heading down to the first turn, it'll be Mark Scaife that leads them in there. Dick Johnson in 2nd spot. They're followed by John Bauer. There's the Lansvale Smash Repairs car going through. Tony Longhurst away to a good start, and so too Alan Jones. Turn number 2. And the Nissan will lead. The 2 Shell Sierras tucked in behind them, and then Larry Perkins and the statewide Rhodes Commodore coming up very smartly behind John Bauer.
Certainly a great start from Mark Scaife, and he's wanting, of course, to protect his championship lead, and he's trying to pull off a double in 1992 and win the Australian Driving Championship as well as the Touring Car Championship. But there's a heck of an argument for the minor placings. Well,
Well, he's gained a couple of spots. Here's John Bowe pulling out of the slipstream, just has a look at Dick Johnson. That is the fastest corner on the circuit, as Bowe, down on the inside of his team leader, wraps up second spot, gets on the toe now in the Winfield Nissan as they head down to turn number 2. And JB in no mood to settle for second best today. He's on the tail of the Nissan. Dick sits in right behind him. Larry Perkins, a very comfortable 4th at this stage.
Well, John Bowe's been knocked around by a variety of competitors over the last couple of rounds, Mike, and I think he's going to be quite happy just to get up there and do battle with Mark Scaife and show who's boss here.
Looks like Terry Finnegan, is it, that's blowing all that smoke.
There's plenty of it.
Foodtown Commodore. It looks like it's lunched itself. It's getting close up here. We take Nissan race cam. This is Jimmy Richards' car riding back in the pack.
Jim had a problem in qualifying yesterday. The car ran on 5 cylinders, and that's why he qualified way back in 12th position. Uncharacteristic for Jimmy Richards, who is always at the front of the field. He's alongside Wayne Park and Peter Jackson Sierra at the moment, trying to work his way through. This is a very, very tricky track to pass on. I personally love the track. I think it's a fabulous complex, and Richards through on the inside of Park. But you have to pick and choose your passing spots very wisely. There are a lot of places on the track where 2 lines converge, and look at this scrap with Bowe up on the outside of Scaife, and the Sierra just blast past into the lead. So clearly the Ford with a horsepower edge at the moment. Bowe made a good run onto the straight, got the draft in behind Mark Scaife, and Larry Perkins is tagging along well in the Commodore. So we've got Sierra from Nissan, then another Sierra, and then Larry attacking Nick Johnson in the argument for 3rd place.
Looks like the Finnegan car, the number 27 car, is in the pits, out of commission.
Bowe's opening up a very healthy gap now over this group, but just going back to discussing Tony Longhurst, I think that you'll find as this race unfolds, and it's 16 laps in total, and then you get into the second heat, the BMW will be very strong. Larry now up the inside of Dick Johnson. Dunlop race cam tells the story, and Larry has a spin, and a big one. Locked up the rear brakes.
And he's got Johnson, the side of Johnson's car on the way through. There's not too much room there. Fortunately, they've all got through on the inside. Minimal damage, I would think, to the Perkins car. There's Thomas Mazera. Let's have a look at this as Larry comes up on the statewide roads. Commodore slips it down on the inside, locks up the brakes. The tail comes out. There it is. Bang.
Well, that cost Dick a window as well. He's going to have a bit of shattered glass in the cockpit of his Shell Sierra.
Dick Neil Crompton, what happened out there?
Oh, mate, LP did another one of his desperate braking manoeuvres, and he reversed it into my door. I got glass everywhere in here. It's down my shoes, down my pants. It's a bit prickly, old cock.
Yeah, pain of a glass, yeah.
Come on, Dick. A little bit of cut glass never hurt anybody. Just go back and get him.
Mate, I've always wanted a glass eye. I think I've got one.
Oh, I'm not going to touch that with a barge, pal. Come back to you later.
Righto, pal.
Bye. It's like Castrol sump cam, full of Castrol, and that's how low you are to the ground here. Fascinating stuff from our race cam engineers, coming up with a different angle for just about every touring car race. Not imported. Sevens technology exported, of course, as we pick up on Tony Longhurst, sitting in the draft now of Mark Scaife down the very long straight here. We've seen Thomas Mazera move from the back of the field up to 14th, and Perkins from 3rd back to 15th. And here comes No Baloney. Tony up on the inside. Be deep under brakes here, and there goes Tony. Is the little opening?
Very nice driving there. He waited. He was nice and patient. He's been a little bit impatient on occasions when he's had John Bowe to contend with.
Jimmy Richards carrying our Nissan race cam as he comes up on the inside of Peter Brock. Beautiful move that on the inside.
He made a good clean exit out of the corner, and Peter just got a little bit out of shape. There's a new tyre on the Commodore this weekend.
Order still Bowe over Tony Longhurst. They've opened up a huge gap over Mark Scaife, and probably 8 or 9 car lengths then back to Johnson, followed of course by Jimmy Richards.
Take Dunlop race cam. Dick goes down the outside under brakes. Brock's got a nice line into the.
Yes. You'd be a bit careful. You didn't cop a Larry back through the window there.
Brock covers his tracks, and while Dick gets pushed wide, Alan Jones takes advantage of that, and Dick goes back even another position.
5 laps to go in this Heat 1 this afternoon of round 6, and it's as close stuff. Let's have a look at Colin Bond. I think he got a bit of help there from Paul Morris, perhaps just a touch, maybe.
Paul actually forgot to put his foot on the brake there. That was...
You weren't as gracious as us. We take our Castrol race cam, riding almost at Castrol sump level with Tony Longhurst. And this will be fascinating stuff over the tight part of the circuit. Let's see what Tony can do here. Oh,
here's a fire in Bondi's car.
They pulled out the
it's
bush fire
Gary
brigade.
Wilmington's Toyota Supra. He's had a big barbecue on 4 wheels there. They've got it out.
Well, he's on top of old Smoke. It looks at, yes, he's out of the car and okay. That's just before the grandstand here at Eastern Creek.
See, Tony's on the throttle early. Castrol race cam shows a fabulous view under the bottom of the Sierra. The BMW M3's almost got racing car characteristics in the way that it brakes and handles, where the Sierra, the Commodore and the other cars are probably more traditional touring car guys, where your tyres and brakes are really sad after a while. Up on the inside this time, but again the Sierra quicker in a straight line, so then John covers his ground naturally. This is probably an area of vulnerability, but Tony would have to get right round the outside and then almost take some ground off John. That would be a very tough thing to do. Plus there's dust and marbles on the exit, and you can see that when the Sierra runs wide, it closes off the opening quite dramatically. And Dick Johnson in trouble, car number 17. What has happened there? A spin? Any other parties involved? It's hard to tell.
He's really been in the wars today.
And look at Longhurst right on the bumper bar of the Shell Sierra. Can he get up the inside here? If he could just get to at least halfway along it, he'll be able to get under John and aggravate him, but no, he can't do it. The Sierra comes back once again. So now he tries the outside route when they go to this right-hand kink. Pretty impossible thing to do, Alan.
He wants the sling-in type, but you mentioned earlier he gets off the engine speed and the Sierra is just a little bit too strong for him in a straight line.
Okay, last corner, coming onto the main straight, the crowd's up on its feet. And Longhurst doing everything he can, but he's going to be shy on horsepower. John Bowe, I think, is going to survive, or will he? It's going to be very, very tight, but no, the Shell Sierra, John Bowe at the helm, takes the win in Heat 1. Tony Longhurst backs away from it in the end and finishes in second place. And those two with a very healthy margin over third placed Mark Scaife, and there he is. He was about 6.5, 7 seconds behind in third.
Bowe, Longhurst the front row. Racing, goodbye, go the Nissan straight between them. They'll be 1, 2, 3 very quickly as Mark Gibbs tries to get up, but Bowe covers his ground very well getting into the bottom corner. Johnson goes in there. Longhurst, of course, couldn't sustain anything off the line, so he's back in the pack a little bit. Down to the second turn now. Mark Gibbs up on the inside. He should have picked up third, but he gets very wobbly on the exit to that turn. They all get through there and now make their run to the top end of the circuit. John Bowe starting fairly well. Larry Perkins at the back of the field, plus 10 seconds because of a change of tyres, and Peter Brock down on the inside of the BMW. There's Dickie Johnson, gets a short back and sides. He's gone sideways off onto the grass.
Just the slightest tap, and Dick was in trouble.
There's
frustrating guy.
Glenn Seaton up there on the inside.
Just looking at the body language from Mark and his car, well, there's a great demonstration. He's really tensing it at the moment as JB goes down the inside and Bowe goes to the lead now. The crowd stands. Pretty exciting motor race. And Bowe to the lead in 18. Scaife back to second. Two things spring to mind. Either Scaife, and the auto colour entry has gone off. The top of the straight.
Yes, the Dulux has had a dunk up there. Oh. So here comes AJ down on the inside of Jimmy Richards.
Very nice move.
Beautiful.
Very nice move. Yep. Nice and tidy.
Fastest corner on the racetrack through here. But from here, Tony keeps on as Mark tries to get on the binders a bit earlier, and he'll come up the inside, will he? No, he can't. Let's go back to our Castrol race cam. He goes in wide once again. He'll be all over him here. And that's a nice spot. That's where they'll put the tow hitch in the box trailer for Bathurst with the terracotta tyres in it.
Under brakes for the hairpin.
Down to turn number 9. John Bowe gets out of there. He's home on his way for victory here today. Bob Jones getting a lap put on him by Mark Scaife late in the race. Another one of the consistent Commodore privateers. They come into the final turn. There's JB.
Sandown Park all over again.
Yes, from Tasmania. What a great driver. Number 2 to the Dick Johnson team. And here he comes. The Ford wins today at Eastern Creek Raceway. Second goes to Scaife in the Nissan, and the giant killing performance yet again going to Tony Longhurst, who picks up a third. Well done, JB. welcome to beautiful Wanneroo Park Raceway in Western Australia. Today, the penultimate round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, Wanneroo has been a fairly happy haven for the past few years for Ford Sierras, and not a lot has changed this weekend. I'm sure Alan Moffat will agree that the Ford Sierras look very much the car to beat here, and John Bowe in particular.
Yes, well, he's had 5 pole positions so far in the series, Mike. I think not to be discounted. Look out for those GTRs. They're out of the top 6 at the moment, but they'll come through in that second heat.
Well, of course, in points today, let's take a look at the championship points table lead. 190 points shows Mark Scaife as the leader. From 160, his teammate Jimmy Richards. Then on 141, no baloney Tony Longhurst in the BMW. And right behind him, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. And as you can see, John Bowe, the Shell Sierra, starts off pole position with Wayne Park. The Peter Jackson Sierra alongside Dickie Johnson in the Shell Sierra starts out at position 3. Tony Longhurst, the Benson & Hedges BMW from 4, and from 5:30, Glenn Seaton. That's a long 10 seconds. Everyone's getting edgy. Go. Bowe pulls the right gear, gets off the line. There goes Jimmy Richards down the outside as Wayne Park lights up the tyres, and Alan Jones gets a shocker of a start out on the grass as they head into the first turn, the right-hander. And as they head out of there, you'll find it's the 2 Shell Sierras with John Bowe, the race leader, Dickie Johnson up into second spot, and I think Glenn Seaton back in the pack just a little bit. Wayne Park looking to pick up third spot. But right behind him is Jimmy Richards. He's making the big moves, and Larry Perkins in the Castrol Commodore sits one back behind them.
Brakes are very important here at the end of that main straight, Mike. It's a 90-degree corner. It's been widened a little bit over the years, but nevertheless, the cars have got to pull up at the end of that straight.
And I think, Glenn, as they hit the 7,500 RPM pop-off, you can hear that explosion there. Now he's forced to tuck in behind.
Well, the GTR will be feeling their weight here today, and yes, feeling a bit more of their way around.
Everyone appreciates the that ride underneath the car. And one person who wrote it, no, there is not a cameraman underneath.
So John Bowe opens up the lead, 4 seconds over his teammate Dick Johnson, and Dick in turn has about a 5-second lead over this battle here. So there it is.
As we join Dick on the flight deck. What a day so far. 1-2, pal.
Yeah, so far, Mike, so far.
How the tyres feel?
Well, they're getting a little bit greasy, but I'm trying to look after them enough so I've got enough for the next race too.
Look at this. Scaife having a look down the inside of Park's car. Park's got some loose bodywork, it seems, at the back. They're all starting to lean on each other a bit, getting a bit desperate. There's Longhurst up the inside of Scaife. Scaife's been left high and dry.
Yeah, they boxed him in there nicely, and he can't get by now.
And here comes Alan Jones. He's got the nice line into this corner. He'll go deep under brakes. Scaife gets pushed even wider. Thank you very much.
Yes.
He's lost 2 positions in the length of the straight to the little BMW. It's a remarkable feat.
Tony was very sporting there. He could have dived in under brakes.
Go, Tony.
He's having it another go now. That little wiggle on the approach to where the cars are right now is quite distinct. And we saw Jim Richards pass there before, and obviously Tony said, I'll take advantage there as well. Thank you very much. Here's Alan Jones having a bit of a think. He might lunge down now. Scaife, not to be outdone, wants to get a little bit of ground gathered back up, but not finding it so easy.
He's going to have to go the outside. There's no way. Jones, oh, no. Centrifugal force played there, and the 4-wheel drive advantage is snapping off that turn. Have played well into the hands of Mark Scaife again. Jones had it all set up, but here he comes again down on the inside. Scaife tries to cover his ground. Jones says, sorry, pal. Back you go again. Now he's got to try and get straight across the inside of the track. So Alan Jones is doing a bit of defensive driving.
Just look how well Jonesy hung on to Scaife as they came out of the loop. It's a big, long haul up that hill. The GTR with more power and certainly much more traction. And Jonesy was right with him as they came over the top of the hill. That is really impressive.
But the Sierra is back for its final season of competition. Last turn comes up, checkered flag at the ready for heat number 1. Round number 8. And it goes to John Bowe in car number 18. And strike up a 1-2 for the Shell Sierra team. Dickie Johnson finishes in second. Huge crowd cheer coming up for that one, and Jimmy Richards coming up for third place. Settle back, time to go racing from Wanneroo Park Raceway.
Red light.
Bowe just creeps marginally. Johnson bobbled it at the start badly, ever so badly, and Glenn Seaton shifts ground. Almost tacks onto the back of Dick Johnson's car. That was a shocker from Dick Johnson. But as they make it through turn number 1 and the exit now to Dunlop Corner, You'll find it's John Bower, and right behind him it'll be Jimmy Richards. Next is Dick Johnson, the second of the Nissans, and then Tony Longhurst up very, very closely behind Glenn Seaton. So they go through the sweeper and now start to work the downhill section to the right-hander. And I think you'll find that the Nissan is well and truly on some trailblazing action here today. It's a good start from Jimmy Richards, but that was made even easier by a terrible start on the part of Dick Johnson, and Scaife is already up to fourth and putting pressure on the Queenslander.
Also a great start from Mark Scaife. He leapt off the fourth or fifth row there, pushed his way up through the field. There he is in fourth place behind Johnson. Johnson only just grappling up to third position after Mike said that terrible start. But there's Jim Richards second. So the Nissan's really taking the fight up to the Sierras in Heat 2.
Yeah, Scaife's not fooling around either now. He's just shadowing Dick Johnson. I think you're going to find this is going to be a real scrap in this heat. Everybody's monitored what they did with their tires in the first round. And now they know it's go for broke. There's no prizes for coming nowhere in this one. And you can see Scaife being much more aggressive than what we witnessed in the first heat. Wayne Park in the pits. Obvious engine worries with the bonnet open. And we now have a situation where Tony Longhurst is giving Seaton the same treatment he normally reserves for John Bowe.
2.91 seconds the gap from our race leader John Bowe back to Jimmy Richards and Mark Scaife.
Alan Jones shadowing Tony Longhurst, the two little Benson and Hedges cars running like tops. BMW reliability. They, I don't believe, have missed a beat all this season. Tremendous credit to their preparation and the engineering that goes in that team. Try that sometime when you're driving down Swanson Street, well, which we can't do anymore, but shall we say Pitt Street, Mike?
Yeah.
What do we want? Parramatta Road?
It's close, isn't it?
Look at the speed of this BMW out of that corner. That is remarkable how quickly it gets up the hill.
You see Seaton guarding every inch of the road.
Seaton seems to be rubbing a tyre there. Smoke coming off the...
I tell you what, when they make their lunge here, it's going to be 2 for 1.
He's basically got it.
Oh, he is. He's rubbing a tyre.
He's had it. That'll be hurting him.
See on our Castrol race cam last time around, he got very, very close to the back of Seaton's car. I don't know whether they touched. Seaton now has bodywork rubbing on his left rear tyre.
Isn't that a fabulous shot? Now he rubs the bodywork there, and when he gets the car straight,
Tony will be breathing these fumes. It's hard enough putting up with the fumes that come out of into your own cockpit, but when you got to put up with somebody else's as well, it can be quite toxic.
And it's Tony Longhurst finding a little inside edge here on Glenn Seaton, car number 30, the Peter Jackson Sierra. And that was the only invitation teammate Alan Jones needed. They're able to perpetrate a 1-2 straight through on the inside. Glenn had been rubbing a tyre the last couple of laps, but now they've been able to get through. So whether Tony Longhurst can go on with it from here, only time will tell. About 2.5 seconds. The gap at it already as they get one of the Alfa Bargello cars out of the way and head up the hill again. Bowe tries to consolidate, but I'll tell you, right behind Dick Johnson, Tony Longhurst is Stormin' Norman. And as we take Dunlop race cam, just guess who is sitting in behind Dickie Johnson? Tony Longhurst, zippity-doo-dah, up on the inside with the Dunlop race cam, and away goes Tony. Now don't tell me he's not the mover in the field. That really did catch Johnson. JB's got not much he can do about it if he's out of tyres. We'll have to wait and see as they come down the hill.
Won't want to lock the brakes up now. Slide right off the circuit.
We have seen situations, particularly Winton, when Longhurst was all over the back of Bowe. He just managed to hang on lap after lap after lap. I wonder if he can produce that same sort of durability this time.
Well, it's hard to do that on bicycle tyres with this one. And Dick is skating around just a little bit. The exit to that turn now, you'll see that Gibbs will try and get up the inside. 3 laps to go.
Whoop, there goes Mark Scaife.
Down at the end of the straight.
The crowd reacting below us here. There it is.
Deary
Mark
me.
Scaife, he's just come off at the most unusual spot, just beyond the pit entry lane.
And they're all going to get Scaife. His championship is sitting there. Scaife has gone off at the end near the edge of the sand trap and the entrance to the pits.
Trying to pick up reverse gear with those big racing tyres. He hasn't got a lot of lock that he can wind on, so he's trying to squeeze through. And meanwhile, the battle here Johnson trying to hold off this gaggle. Glenn Seaton goes up the inside.
There was a touch for sure.
Oh, there he goes.
More than a touch.
They're all over the place. Johnson goes off into the dust.
Johnson trying to catch first gear if he can and get out of there.
So all of a sudden, all hell's broken loose. Scaife, he seems to have vanished. Don't know where he's
gone
got
into
to.
the pits.
There he is.
He's gone into the pits, but this is going to get away from him. He couldn't believe this. It was all set up for the championship. But at this stage, 2 laps to go, and here's the man that's going to spoil the Nissan birthday. It's John Bowe coming down the front straight.
Jim Richards is nailed back about another car length. And
he knows what's on now. Richards knows that if he can get up and get past John Bowe here, because Scaife is now out of the equation. There goes Mark Scaife, a lengthy pit stop. He's going to come in and finish last today.
He's been lapped by the whole field, so Scaife is out of the equation. Here's the battle for the lead and the win of the day. John Bowe and Jim Richards locked in battle.
Oh, here he comes. Here's the move down the inside.
Now, this really is a remarkable performance for Bowe. He's done it a number of rounds before.
Get set, John. Here it comes. The challenge on the inside. Try and get back to the inside. That's what he'll have to do because Jim, with a lap and a quarter to go.
Well, that's Bowe's trump card. He has got that straight line speed coming up the hill.
But he can't do anything foolish. He can't float it in and get the tail loose on the car.
Last lap. Here comes Bowe. Richards getting sideways, bouncing off the curbs. He's trying everything that he knows to get past Bowe here. And if John can withstand the pressure on this last 2.4 kilometres, there's the last lap board.
Yes, we know that. As we get back to
John Richards goes up the inside.
Bang! Touch. Whoa! The crowd is standing and screaming here at Wanneroo Park. Now that's made sure he hasn't folded one of those fenders over a tyre. That's not Jim's way of driving anyway. That was just a racing incident, but he's going to come down the inside of Bowe here. And I think Jim maybe have even caught a tyre. Let's wait and see. This is a dramatic penultimate round of the Shell Touring Car Championship. Bowe just feathering it through here. Get it straight. Bring on the power. And bring it up the hill because Richards is sitting alongside and Bowe's trying to get down the inside.
There it is. That's his trump card. That extra power. He's got Richards covered as they come down to the braking point for the last time.
Is Jim Richards going to hold it on the inside, or can John Bowe keep it straight? He's got to get back to the inside.
Richards gets the power on. He's got a guard alongside. There's a drag to the line. The crowd's going crazy.
Bowe wins it. That has ruined the Nissan Challenge at Wanneroo Park because John Bowe has won both ends of round 8 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Second spot will go to Jimmy Richards. Fabulous drive from Richards. Forget that little touch of cars. That's not Jimmy's style of driving. And Tony Longhurst will pick up 3rd place, and the crowd have gone nuts.
He loved that.
At Wanneroo Park this afternoon.
It was a great day for all our guys. The Shell team have done a tremendous job this year, and Dunlop have done a great job with the tyres, and it's a pleasure to race with a gentleman such as Jim.
And welcome to Oran Park Raceway near Sydney and grand final day of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, can Mark Scaife do it today? Will Jim Richards rob him of the crown? And what are the roles to be played by Tony Longhurst and John Bowe? Alan Moffat, I'm sure you'll agree, we've got a few things there to work out this afternoon.
We have, and some cruel fate to Tony Longhurst this morning, mate. That was really bad luck.
Certainly. Actually, the Peter Jackson Dash normally starts proceedings at the racetrack. The top 6 draw out, and John Bowe, of course, had the outside of the front row heading down to the first turn. But as you can see, Tony Longhurst slid across the track after being punted from behind by Mark Gibson, the GIO. Look out to the left. Gibbs on the grass, whacked straight into the side of Tony Longhurst. He finished up going across the track and flat spotted 4 tyres. John Bowe, in the meantime, went on to win it and win it very, very comfortably indeed. There was a helter-skelter for the minor placings, but Bowe picked up $29,000 through winning the Peter Jackson Dash Series. That puts him on pole position for today. I don't know whether Sierra actually has the legs against the Nissan. They've got a marvellous record here.
I think the Nissan has still got the chance to do it, and Freddie Gibson won't be taking any chances wanting to win the championship either for Mark Scaife or Jim Richards.
And John Bowe, Mr. Consistency in the Shell Sierra. Sharing the front row. Watch the Nissans get off the line. There they go. Goodbye all. As expected, they tear off into the distance. Bowe made an absolute shocker of a start. He's gone back about 8 spots, and even worse was Longhurst, who had to wait 10 seconds after they'd taken off. That's what the rules say. Mark Scaife getting through very, very smartly, and Mark Gibbs, of course, the man deemed to perhaps have caused Longhurst's woes, started back in the top 6. straight down on the inside. Our Nissan race cam shows it. Jim doesn't seem perturbed at all. I think Jim has resigned himself to the fact of who's going to win this one today. I don't think it's Jim.
I asked him yesterday how he was mentally ready for it. He said, no, well, it's Scabies Championship, so he's prepared to sit there and let him go. 3 GTRs when they have to do it, or they want to do it. Yeah. The Camels handicapping system's been criticized all season, and it was just absolutely dreadful to hear that 100 kilos had been put on these cars, but hasn't done a thing to them.
No, you're right. Oh, John Bow gets it loose. Tail into the wall then, and that may be rubbing against the tyre.
Really hurting there now.
He hit that concrete wall very hard. You captured that on the camera there, and the bodywork is rubbing. Smoke billowing from the back of the car. John gave the wall a real clout when he came out onto the main straight there.
That's a good example of power oversteer, it's called.
Look at this. He got the flare off too, I think, on the way through.
He's lost his driver's mirror as well.
I don't think he'll be worrying about that, but the smell of that smoke in the cockpit is always nerve-wracking, and it certainly doesn't look too good for him.
We're taking our Castrol race cam, keeping in mind this is riding under the front of Tony Longhurst's car. Just give you an indication of how quickly he's picking up the field as Jimmy Richards up on the inside of Mark Gibbs. They go down the front straight at Oran Park. Certainly here's Dickie Johnson with Tony Longhurst down the inside of him as he comes storming through the field.
We've got a circuit breaker that keeps popping and stopping cutting the fuel off.
There we go. Thanks, Colin.
On cue.
No need for us to say anything.
So Longhurst up to 6th.
That was an easy one at the end of the straight under Larry. Larry dabbing the brakes, Longhurst straight by him on the inside.
He's just peeling them off one by one. Tremendous charge from the little BMW.
Last corner now for Mark Scaife. He's going to take heat 1. Jim Richards is closed right up. They make the run towards the checkered flag. And Mark Scaife takes the win. Tremendous performance. Second place goes to Jimmy Richards. Enormous gap back to Mark Gibbs. There's Gibbsy. And it's on for young and hold here. We've got Alan Jones, and look at Glenn Seaton side by side with Tony Longhurst, and it runs in favour of Seaton. That was a thrilling finish, a great charge from Tony. Boy, they don't come much closer than that.
It's been a great series, no doubt about it. Best touring car racing, the closest racing that we've seen during season 92. Let's wait for the final. We're ready for the grand final at Oran Park. We're about 4 seconds away from the start. Will it be Nissan or Tony Longhurst split them in the opening lap? They're off, the 2 Nissans. See you guys. Jones breaks into wheel spin. Perkins goes down the inside. He's gathered up smartly by Dick Johnson. Not the best of starts from Tony Longhurst. The Bimmer suffered badly off the start. And you'll see the 3 Nissan GTRs will lead them down into turn number 1. Brock made a blinder down the outside. Glenn Seat also a good start. There on the outside is Tony Longhurst, and John Bow has gained about 9 spots so far as the Nissans close it up, heading down to the right-hand turn.
Great start from Peter Brock, as you said, Mike. And there's John Bow tucked in behind the mobile Commodore. John damaged the car, as you saw in the first heat, when he rammed it really hard against the wall coming onto the main straight. They've done the body repairs required, and actually that's Dick Johnson in front of his teammate there, so Bow in behind the first of the BMWs.
He has done well, because Bow, in fact, started out of position 15, I think it was, in the pack. So he has made a long run at the field, got up very smartly. Up to 9th already. There's Larry Perkins and Peter Brock right behind him. As they break it into single file, they run downhill for the approach to Goodyear. Glenn Seaton a little wobbly getting out of that turn. Bounding down to the bottom corner. Larry Perkins sits in and he splits the BMW as they come across the line. Scaife the leader, Richards in second, and Mark Gibbs. Look at this. John Bow down the inside of Tony Longhurst. No beg your pardons. There's Bow. Oh,
we've seen it
quite clean under there too.
We've seen it so many times this year, Mike. The BMW and John Bow Sierra. These two have been locked in battle in so many heats of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship this year. One of them ending in controversial circumstances at Winton, but it hasn't detracted from the excellent sense of competition between these two cars. This battle continues. The old protagonists, and Longhurst went out wide there. John Bow has him, and they come onto the main straight. Look at the straight line speed of this BMW. 2.5 litre 4-cylinder engine. They're getting an enormous amount of revs out of these engines this year. John Bow showing the superior power of the Turbo Ford Sierra.
But here's our leaders. Mark Scaife going through. That's second. Jimmy Richards protecting. And then third is Mark Gibson, the GIO Commodore. Alan Jones is in fourth place. There's Glenn Seaton going through in fifth. Sixth is Larry Perkins. Seventh is Brock. Eighth is Bow. And ninth is Tony Longhurst. Larry's thing just gathers in some more 200 HP.
They're playing with fire here. They're playing with fire here. Exactly what we've seen happen earlier. You have to have the real estate in front of you to make a move like that. And once he lost traction with his brakes, he was out of control. He had to let the car go.
Well, you can see in the last 2 or 3 laps, Brock was in big trouble. He was locking brakes everywhere. The car was sliding and slipping. He's having difficulty in the power down. Let's have a look at that again on the replay. Big lock up. Brock goes offline. When the back wheel gets onto the dirt, he's gone. Larry locks everything up to try and avoid him. The other guys got around him quite well, actually.
And you notice.
And Larry slips off.
Larry did a good job there. 3 laps to go. Mark Gibbs has been the big winner out of all of this. As we showed you that replay, he's found a path past Perkins. Morris is down now.
Yes, well, Larry had very little defense against that move as well. He's at the end of his tether.
Oh, let's take the Castrol race cam up, this time on the inside of Seaton. The corner gets narrower.
Wow. Aggressive.
Oh, that's all right.
Hear the contact.
Sorry,
thanks. That was a thanks, I'll see you later wave. That wasn't really a thanks for getting over. That was the famous Sterling Moss wave.
Well, I tell you what, it's caused a problem. I don't know whether he's got a tyre that's flat. Yes, he has.
Puncture, right front, can't do a thing, can hardly steer it.
They come into the final corner now. Crowd already to its feet to acknowledge and to salute Mark Scaife, the 92 Shell Australian Touring Car Champion. Second spot goes to Jimmy Richards in a form finish across the line. And third still to come in as they head down into the bottom turn. And it should be Alan Jones. There he is there on camera, coming out of the last corner to finish in third place. So behind the 2 Nissans, it was Daylight back to third. And even more Daylight back to fourth, and that happened to be his team partner, Tony Longhurst, in the number 25 B&H BMW. And ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you, for Shell Australia, the youngest touring car champion in our history, Mark Scaife.
Thanks, Mike.
I bet that feels super, does it?
It's fantastic. The guys have worked very hard all year, and you know, to Gibson Motorsport, Winfield, Nissan, Yokohama, Shell, Australian Airlines, all our sponsors, thank you very much.
Good boy, Mark Scaife. And to put the sash on you, Tommy Smith from Shell. Being a Shell boy, you'd appreciate that.
Congratulations, Mark. Not only a great race today, but a magnificent season. Well done.
Thank you very much. We do it every time, Tommy, don't we?
Final points in the championship, Mark Scaife and Jimmy Richards for Winfield Team Nissan, 1-2. Tony Longhurst third in the series on 184. John Bowers next on 175 and Glenn Seaton on 173. What a series, Alan Moffat.
Well, it was great, but certainly 1993 is going to be even more exciting.
Today's motor racing telecast was proudly brought to you by Synovus Vitamins and Shell. Go well, go Shell. This has been another 7 Sport production, the network of the 1992 Barcelona Olympics.